Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 15 of This Week in Cloud Computing. I am your host, Amanda Coolong, and I am joined in studio with Mark Jeffrey, my wonderful co-host.
Hello, Amanda.
For the moment.
For the moment. I know. I could be cut at any moment. I could fire myself. That's right.
Know? I don't think we're going to fire you, but
well,
we may,
replace
you to some extent. I'm still looking for a new co-host to sit in the hot seat over here.
Think you can sit in this chair?
You think you can sit in that chair?
Let us know.
Email Amanda@thisweekend.com. So if you're sitting there wondering where the hell did Mark Suster go, he's in another country right now.
I think he's in China.
I think he's in China.
Yeah.
So he will be back with This Week in Venture Capital next week.
Yep.
So don't worry, he is coming back. Over the weekend, we held a casting call.
We did. It was
Open
huge.
audition.
Yeah, actually, we'll have some footage from that up later today. We streamed it live while it was going on. Kevin Pollak was here. Jason Calcanis was here. They basically had several rooms of sort of people that they were meeting with.
We had quite the assembly line going.
So basically Lon and I would meet with folks first, and the people we felt were really great, we sent in to meet with Kevin and Jason, and we found some really great people. So
they didn't know that they were going to be live until they got here.
Yeah, a lot of them didn't know that, so that was a bit of a surprise, but it was good. I think everyone had fun. So.
And I think we may have some new shows coming out of it, so stay tuned on thisweekend.com. Some other quick things. Next Tuesday, starting at noon Pacific time, we are going to be counting down the top 100 YouTube videos of all time, you know, based on what we think are the best, of course, and also based on what you think. So if you have a favorite YouTube video and would like to submit it, then you can send us a 30-second video clip and send it actually to lon@thisweekend.com.
This is Lon,
and
baby.
30 seconds, just let us know why it's your favorite clip and then send it along and it may make the cut. So some pretty cool stuff there. Last quick update, we have a very special guest next week.
We do.
We have Chris Hoff of Cisco joining us.
That is huge.
Really excited about that.
That is huge.
So Jay Praz, one of our wonderful, wonderful, you know, viewers here, he helped us out with that. So
yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jason. Upcoming events and conferences, we've got the Cloud Expo is heading to Europe, in Prague, actually. So if you've never been to Prague, want to go, I'd like to go.
That sounds kind of cool.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah, that's what we can do.
June 21st and 22nd. If you register by Friday, you can save on your tickets. So we'll make sure you get the details on that through the chat room. And then GigaOm's cloud computing conference called Structure. I think it's in its third season. That's coming up June 23rd and 24th in San Francisco.
That's Om Malik. So
Om Malik.
That'll be a good one.
That will be a very good one. And so if you register now through May 29th, you'll get the Super Saver ticket, which is still kind of pricey, but you know, it's a good conference, so I think it's probably worth it.
It's definitely going to be a good conference.
All the links for these will be available in the chat room. We'll make sure they're available after the show as well. And we have some sponsors to thank, as always. We have some very loyal sponsors, actually. A huge shout out to Verticore, Storm On Demand, and NetDNA. So that's at Verticore, at Storm On Demand, and at NetDNA CDN on Twitter. So make sure you give a huge shout out for all of our sponsors.
Yeah, please thank our sponsors on Twitter.
Them.
Thank you.
And then, let's see, in terms of participating, make sure that you're following us on Twitter too. TweeCloudComp on Twitter, and #Cloud or #TWICC.
Yep.
So I think that's about it for our announcements.
That's it for that.
A few things, and we've got some guests, of course, joining us.
Please tell me, who are our guests?
We have Michael DeHaan, a product manager over at Puppet Labs, joining us virtually today, and also Jared Goralnick, who's the founder and CEO of this cool app called AwayFind.
Oh, cool.
That's our app of the week. So we will be having them join us here in just a second, but first we've got some news. So story number one, we have the federal CIO, Vivek Kundra. He's calling for standards for security, interoperability, and portability to drive government cloud adoption.
Right.
So if they succeed, my question is, will this be a game changer for cloud computing? I would like to throw this question first over to Michael DeHaan, because I think Puppet Labs might have something interesting to say about this. Michael, what do you think?
Sure. Well, absolutely, right? So the government getting involved in cloud and cloud security standards is going to be very, very important. As like if you're in a data center and you're co-located with all sorts of different industries and users, making sure that there's security standards there is important. And another thing is making sure that there's like not data lock-in, right? So making sure that you're using open services, open platforms, in that you can move between cloud providers and have access to your data as you're entrusting other people for your infrastructure.
Okay.
So yeah, I would say absolutely the government getting more involved in cloud is a good thing, and we're already doing some work with various government groups around Puppet and standardization, and I can only see that getting more and more advanced as time goes on.
So would you say that Puppet has a big focus on the federal vertical, the government vertical?
I think Puppet, the nice thing is that it really applies everywhere, right? So everybody has data center and business automation problems where they need to deploy their applications. So whether you're industry or government, we're both looking at the same tools, and obviously open source is really big right now to avoid lock-in and making sure that there's a community around the tools you use and you have resources to turn to.
Okay.
Now, let me actually make a comment here, because when I researched this before the show, one of the URLs on the site was apps.gov.
Yeah.
And you go there, and it's basically a big app store for the
government app store.
For cloud computing. Yeah, and so you basically, and it looks very much like what you'd see on iTunes.
Right.
Or now, actually, it reminded me a lot of Google's cloud app store as well. So you go there, and if you're a government agency, you apparently can only pay using a special government credit card. I'm from the consumer segment, so I don't know a lot about the whole government world. But I was kind of blown away at sort of the speed with which this existed and the, I guess, the completeness of it. It seemed like every app you could possibly want is in there. Michael, do you know much about this? Can you tell us a little bit more about what's going on with apps.gov? Are you aware of this, or?
I'm actually not aware of that. It's the first I've heard of that initiative.
Yeah, so I was kind of blown away. It was just this whole little world that we just discovered that I didn't know much about.
Yeah, well, if anyone that watches the show, if you've got any information about apps.gov, let us know. If you have anyone that would like to talk to us from apps.gov, that would be great too.
Yeah, and I think the big thing that this guy, gentleman, Vivek Kundra, our federal CIO, I should address him properly, his point is that the government's got a lot of money, right?
Exactly.
Everybody knows this. So anyone who's making cloud computing products or applications wants to get to that money. But the federal government is a little bit slow in the uptake because there are no standards for security, interoperability, and portability, or at least they're not mature yet. And so they're calling for this, and once they sort of get into place, hopefully it'll drive the adoption at the federal government level and free up a lot of dollars for everyone.
And it's really interesting, too, that the government has such a focus on it with cloud computing. I mean, we've talked with these international cloud leaders, and everyone is really looking to the U.S. government in terms of what they're going to do with cloud computing.
Yeah, I was fairly impressed with what I saw. It surprised me.
Well, Jared, do you have any thoughts on this one as well? I want to make sure we pull you in.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, no, the thing that I feel is really important about this announcement is the comment about security, because if you look at apps.gov and you even look at Google Apps Marketplace and Salesforce, they really don't talk at all about the security requirements for the vendor. We actually just got involved with the Google Apps Marketplace, and we have access to customers' email. And one of the discussions that that really came up through a lot of this is, what is Google doing to say, hey, that we know that these people are trusted with email, and they're really not doing that much right now, nor are any of these vendors. So I think that the real key here is really pushing for standards for the security of it. And I think what that will allow to happen is not only big companies getting into this game like these actual cloud providers, but smaller companies being able to come in with their hosted offerings and be able to actually meet these compliance standards because they would actually be defined. So that's, to me, the thing that gets really excited about the potential for security requirements, is the fact that smaller companies could then play with some of these players and be trusted and verified.
That's actually a really good point. It seems like so much of what we've talked about here when it comes to cloud computing is really opening things up for the smaller guys across the board, whether it's to benefit SMBs or whether it's smaller cloud players themselves jumping in. That's a very, very fair point.
Although I will tell you one thing I did see on the apps.gov site. I went shopping around some of the apps, right, just to see what the prices were, right? Because I'm figuring federal government, these got to be some, fairly hefty price tags. And I was right. The first app that popped up, price tag, $96,000. And you thought I Am Rich on the iTunes App Store is bad. This is.
You thought paying $1.99 was a big deal.
There's some big price tags on there, so.
I would like to jump into a quote, actually, for this next piece from Salesforce.com CEO Mark Benioff, who is at it again, of course.
There he goes again.
He's so quotable. I can't help it. The guy's just quotable. He's claiming that the private cloud model is not real cloud computing, and that vendors selling private cloud hardware are merely using the cloud to rebrand their offerings. So, but the thing is here, Benioff isn't alone, okay? Recently, an Amazon Web Services exec said that internal cloud infrastructures don't carry the same value proposition as cloud computing. So is there merit to these statements? You know, if a private cloud isn't cloud, then what is it exactly? Jared, why don't we start with you?
Sure. I mean, I don't really know what a cloud is. I mean, there's something to be said for virtualization, and there's something to be said for distributed resources. But in my mind, a cloud is more a payment and a staffing issue than a technical issue. In other words, if you're manning the data center and paying generally fixed costs, then it's less cloud, whereas cloud to me implies more usage-based building and worrying less about the infrastructure and more about the software. So it could be software you built or software you lease, but in either case, you're not worried about the details of all the server maintenance. So I think that large companies can benefit from the scale of, quote, cloud-based solutions, or basically distributing and commoditizing their ability to build stuff. But that's not the same thing as leaving the infrastructure to someone else and trusting that certain things will just work and are not really their concern. So to me, it's kind of a different value proposition, between cloud and between using virtualization and commoditization and things like that.
Actually, interestingly enough, on the apps.gov website,
you are addicted to this thing.
I spent some time, I got lost in a rabbit hole on it. But they actually have a definition for cloud computing. And they actually put a stake in the ground. They say, this is what it is. And their stake in the ground is that it's basically, hardware is looked at as a pool, right? A pool of stuff that anyone can remotely dip into and requisition computing power, storage, bandwidth. And basically where the line is for them is that you are not actually physically present, or you don't mess around with the hardware at all. You don't touch the hardware, you don't see it. It's abstracted from you. So if that is the case, then it is in the cloud. So by that definition, a private cloud, in other words, if you remotely requisition a bit of hardware that is dedicated to you, that is still a cloud by their definition. So, Benioff shaking his fist at the heavens and going, "Beware the false cloud," is probably a little bit overreaction, I think.
Yeah, and also I think we've kind of moved beyond the what is cloud to how is cloud deployed almost as well. Yeah. Going into the past, SaaS, IaaS, all of that stuff, hybrid, whatever. Michael, what are your thoughts on this one?
Sure. So, I mean, there's really two types of clouds here. In Salesforce, traditional software as a service, hosted application, doing great things for businesses that don't want to build this kind of framework themselves, right?
Right.
So those things are good. What Amazon's providing, rapid scale out, not having to manage the physical infrastructure, and being able to build a web or internet business on the fly at really, really high scale. Also good stuff. What I think they're missing there is there's a lot of lower level advantages to a private cloud. I mean, for instance, if you deploy and certify your application on a given OS, say you picked Red Hat Enterprise Linux 4, and new hardware comes out and you have problems with that, right? You used to be very, very tied to the hardware, and now with the virtual machine, if you have to replace a server, you can just migrate the virtual machine from one server to another, right?
Right.
So there's hardware abstraction layer, which is really, really good for certification. There's migration ability, which is really, really good for CPU utilization. And there's also the infrastructure of I run the physical hardware, and I'm going to let my business units ask for VMs, and I don't have to get involved in their affairs, right?
Yeah.
So if you're a large enterprise, private cloud makes a lot of sense, right? You don't trust that kind of data to be out there in the public cloud space, so we need all of these things.
Right. I mean, private cloud just seems to be the way of a lot of the bigger enterprises and also verticals like financial institutions.
You want to be able to get your hands on the bare metal.
Exactly.
So
you and your bare metal.
I know. So that's what it is.
He loves metal music. He likes the bare metal. Anyway. Well, speaking of Salesforce, though, going back to Salesforce, there is speculation growing that the SaaS pioneer will be Google's next big acquisition. Just rumors in the rumor mill. So we've got a lot of acquisitions and positioning that's happening in the cloud arena with a lot of the bigger players. So is Salesforce the best candidate for Google? And if not, what other cloud companies would make business sense? Mark.
Google wants to expand into the business-to-business market. They're currently there a little bit, but they're tentatively sticking a toe in the water. They definitely want to be in the cloud. They want to be the largest cloud provider in the world.
Right.
To do that, they will need to provide B2B applications and B2B level service, et cetera, et cetera. They're probably going to have to jump in force very quickly. Acquisition is the way to go. Now, the biggest acquisition that Google has made to date, I believe, is DoubleClick, and that was in the $3 billion range. This would be probably 2 to 3 times that size. So that's a big, and I think Google's market, I can't remember what Google's market cap is right now, but it's, I think, like and I'm not going to venture a guess because if I say it wrong, I'll look like
We'll
I'll look
figure it
stupid.
out.
But I know that it would be a big gulp even for them.
Yeah.
So, but a smart one. So I think it's possible. I don't know if it's likely.
Okay. Jared, what are your thoughts? Do you think Google will acquire Salesforce?
I don't think so. I think that they kind of have differences fundamentally in terms of kind of the philosophy of how they build software. I think it's great what Google's doing with the apps marketplace. I think it's great the partnerships they had announced this past week with VMware and things like that, and kind of how they changed their billing structure so it's a little bit more predictable for businesses if they want to use the Google App Engine and things like that, and offering Java. And I do think that Google is moving in that direction, but I think that Salesforce is too big a company for them to acquire. You know, if you look at something like DoubleClick, they didn't acquire them for their technology at all. They acquired them for being an advertising company that, you know, that had distribution, really, that had marketing and customers, you know, for display.
But that's why they would acquire Salesforce, I think, though, too. They would actually acquire them for the business, not for the technology.
Yeah, I agree, but I think that, you know, DoubleClick was fundamentally not a technology company. When you talk about the people there in terms of how they integrated the stuff, it was just totally different. Whereas Salesforce very much is a technology company, and that actually, to me, seems like a challenge because they're developers that build for a very different type of audience, and they have a very different philosophy. Like, you can see CRM actually in Google Apps. They probably already have 5 or 6 CRM applications that are built on top of Google Apps. And I think that those are more in line with Google's philosophy of either A, give it to somebody else to do it, or B, if you're going to build it, make it a lot lighter, make it a lot smaller. Whereas to me, Salesforce is really, really heavy, and it's heavier than any other product that Google has. And while it could certainly work, you know, it starts making them, you know, just have to build things very differently, and all of a sudden have to change their philosophy from kind of, you know, you talk about somebody like 37 Signals where they like having the SMB market because they can control their product vision. Right now, even though Google has 25 million business customers supposedly, they're still, I think, controlling their vision, whereas I think Salesforce is a bit more beholden to some of their really large customers. And I think Google is trying to tell enterprise customers kind of still what to do, whereas Salesforce is a bit more on the listening end because of how big their individual customers are. I don't know. It just seems to me that they have different philosophies in terms of how they would build software and deploy it.
I think you're right, but I think Google's trying to become an enterprise software company, so they will need to change their philosophy if they're going to succeed.
Exactly.
They need somebody like Salesforce. Maybe Salesforce is too large for them, and it may be too monolithic to retrofit into Google's technical architecture. But I don't know. I guess I believe that they will acquire somebody. I don't know if it's going to be Salesforce, but it'll be.
Well, Michael, what do you think? Do you think that Google's going to acquire Salesforce, or if not, who?
Well, I can't exactly speculate what Google wants to do, right? So, I mean, I think it would be interesting if my Android tablet came out tomorrow and my Google Fiber comes to my house, right?
Yeah, true.
There's a lot of interesting things Google could do right now. Being a giant search farm, I don't know if they have the spare resources to approach, you know, a competitor to Amazon VC2 or Rackspace. Seems like it's a logical alternative to them if they are moving into software as a service to get to, you know, moving beyond, you know, App Engine. But I really can't say, right? They're doing great in all the things that they're going after, and they're definitely spreading out.
I'm just curious to see how they're going to do overall, you know, in the enterprise play with cloud.
Right.
We're getting a lot of questions around that. We will keep following that story. We have Juniper, some news out of Juniper. They're going head-to-head with its data center competitors, Cisco and HP, by optimizing their product line around increasing use of virtualization technologies. Now, the company, they've announced new routers and switchers designed to flatten and simplify legacy data center networks. My question is Juniper late to the game here? Because you've got Cisco, HP, and IBM that have all been targeting virtualization for some time. But on the other hand, Juniper did beat out Cisco in terms of winning the New York Stock Exchange account. So are they late to the game? Are they going to be okay? Mark, what do you think?
No, they're not late to the game. I think it's still a fairly open market. You know, it's a personal opinion. Let's start to our guests. I'm interested to hear what they have to say.
Jared, what are your thoughts? I hear you chuckling over there.
Oh, I mean, I agree with Mark, but I honestly don't know the space too well. I use plenty of Cisco's products for virtualization, but you know, I haven't really been paying attention enough to Juniper, Cisco, HP, IBM. I think that this whole space is going to become more commoditized, and the only players where these kinds of things really matter is when you are somebody like the New York Stock Exchange, where those subtle differences really do make a difference. Whereas for me, for example, if Rackspace is using it, I assume it's good. I'm not going to pay attention to all the details. But then again, I'm not an enterprise customer.
Right.
That's a really good point. It seems like a lot of the positioning that's happening is with these giant players, and that when it comes to the smaller guys, the startups and whatnot, it won't be as big of a deal. Thanks for that, Jared. Michael, what do you think?
Well, I mean, when somebody's looking for a product, they're going to pick the best thing off the shelf, no matter when it came out, right? So I think Juniper is going to do fine here. Cisco's probably got some good stuff as well. Again, it's not necessarily my space. Did want to say that Juniper and the New York Stock Exchange are both public users, so we're happy to have them. So, yeah,
good plug, really good plug.
To know too much about the hardware. Wish them the best.
Yeah, I think we're going to keep seeing a lot of positioning like this continue to happen in the space. I mean, more acquisitions keep happening, and everyone's going to try and figure out what their slight little differentiator is.
The gold rush is on. Everyone's looking for gold.
Land grab, land grab.
These guys are selling the shovels.
Exactly.
Because everyone's got to actually have hardware to dig for the cloud gold.
To dig for the cloud gold.
I'm gonna trademark that. Anyway.
I think you're gonna have to keep that one. You can have it, really. I'll let you.
Thank you.
Going back to one of the other players we just mentioned, IBM is doing a lot lately around cloud computing, kind of quietly to some extent. So today, they announced they partnered with Ariba to bring expense tracking software to the cloud. Then earlier this week, they acquired Sterling Software's e-commerce platform. And then earlier in the month, they recently acquired Cast Iron Software. And that's to integrate cloud computing services as well, like its middleware. So IBM's goal is to create this entire business process ecosystem in the cloud, which is quite a different approach to something like Microsoft with Azure and Google with their App Store. And so what do you think makes the most sense, going more of the platform approach or going more of this business process ecosystem approach? Jared, do you want to start?
Well, sure. I mean, there are other companies that have tried to do this, just not of IBM size. You take a look at a company like Intalio, and they've been trying to do this for some time. So I'll be curious if something happens between IBM and Ismail's team over there at Intalio. It seems to me that what IBM is trying to do is really just bring all the pieces together. Whereas if you look at what Google or Microsoft are doing, is they are much more kind of platform oriented. It seems like a reasonable approach. I mean, I think it kind of excites companies like mine in the sense that if you can be the exclusive provider of whatever that piece of the process ecosystem is, then you can get access to some pretty large customers. So it's very compelling for a company to be the exclusive provider in that space, as opposed to kind of an app store model.
Yeah, that's the interesting part in terms of they're listing out partnerships with all of these individual pieces of the pie. So I think that definitely provides some incentive to get more involved with what they're doing. Okay. Michael, what are your thoughts on this one? Do you think it makes more sense to go with the entire business process ecosystem or to go the platform approach?
Well, I mean, I think IBM's big enough they can do both, right?
True.
There's good things about both approaches, right? So I'm more of an infrastructure guy. The technology that gets me excited is low-level systems management and bits and pushing data and the raw cloud infrastructure.
Well, it really is about the data.
Yeah, hosted services, if you're starting a small business or you're starting a medium business or you want to pick up a solution off the shelf, I mean, those hosted solutions provide a lot of value.
Right.
And I can see that only accelerating as the time goes on. It's just kind of a question of do you want to outsource this data, right, or do you want to keep it yourself?
Yeah, that's a good point. What about you, Mark? Do you have any thoughts on this final one?
Yeah, I think I agree that IBM it hasn't been tried at IBM scale. So I think that IBM clearly knows what they're doing a lot of the times. I think that they very well maybe succeed at this, and they may have some insights into it that Microsoft and especially Google, that isn't traditionally an enterprise player, probably hasn't thought of. So.
True. Well, we'll have to keep our eyes peeled on these because it just keeps going, and we keep getting tons and tons of stuff out of the bigger players. So, but we can't forget the little guys.
No, definitely not.
Well, I want to segue here. Mark has on our new thisweekend.com T-shirt.
I do.
And a brand new haircut.
And a brand new haircut.
And I don't know if you noticed, but he was jamming out to our Pandora tunes right before the show started.
Some good tunes today.
Perfect storm for making Mark happy. I really like it.
A storm on demand, Shieldmaiden?
Storm on demand.
Perhaps we should talk about stormy time. That's right. It's time to get our storm on once again, ladies and gentlemen. Get your little guys out and get them moving along. Here we go. Storm on demand. Storm on Demand is an infrastructure as a service cloud computing platform that is powerful enough to replace dedicated servers. proprietary cloud platform that was designed by Liquid Web, one of the largest web hosting providers with over 12 years of experience. That's right, Mark Benioff. They also give dedicated servers, so don't be making fun of them. It's my cloud guys. That's my Storm guys. It is easier to use and less expensive than Amazon EC2. Proprietary cloud platform that was designed by Liquid Web, one of the largest web hosting providers with over 12 years of experience. Features include server-side setup in minutes, easy scaling, backup and restoration capabilities, and pay-as-you-go utility-style billing. Options include cPanel, Fantasco, Ubuntu, Debian, CentOS, fully managed servers, private networking, hear that? Private networking, and much more. Storm On Demand can be found at stormondemand.com. Storm On Demand. Don't listen to Mark Benioff, listen to Storm On Demand. There we go.
Storm On Demand, folks, right here. I love my little guy.
I know, they're awesome.
I wish that there was a way I could
We have a little table. I have a little
stick
table for
him
them
up
now. I don't
here.
know if you can see that, yes.
Yes, there's a little table.
I have my
for the
Storm
little
table
man.
right next to me now.
But we have lots of fun with our little
Too much
service.
fun.
Storm On Demand at Storm On Demand on Twitter.
.com.
So I would like to move on now to a chat with Michael.
Mm-hmm.
So Michael, you are a product manager of Puppet Labs. Now, if you hadn't guessed by what we were talking about earlier, Puppet Labs is actually the leading open source data center automation solution. So open source, we get a lot of talk around open source with the cloud. So Michael, Puppet was a presenting company at the Under the Radar Cloud Conference, correct?
That is correct.
And you're and so we really we do a lot of stuff in terms of paying attention to what's going on with different events and whatnot, and shout out to Deb Landa with her conferences. But what was going on in terms of okay, I want to jump in, sorry, to the open source piece here. CNET's Matisse said that Puppet is a key beneficiary of the cloud computing trend, and I really want to jump into that a little bit with you. So with the rise of cloud computing, how is the role and value of open source changing?
Sure. So obviously open source is important in cloud because I kind of alluded to it earlier, right? You really want to make sure that you don't have data locking in your services, and you have technology where there's a lot of people investing and guiding it. And
right.
to I guess the question of Puppet, right? So cloud is all about massive scale out. So if you can build a data center model that describes your infrastructure for 10 servers or 50 servers, and tomorrow with cloud, you can just go ahead and build up 500 servers essentially for no added cost, provided you have automation software to help you scale out and deploy the configurations of those servers. And that's essentially what Puppet does.
Why the name Puppet?
Well, I mean, it's essentially what you want with your servers, right? So all your little servers are on strings, and you can tell them what to do, and they're your puppets.
They're your puppets.
So there's a central server and a Puppet configuration.
You guys are the Puppet Master. Wait a minute,
Exactly.
ready? Well, we don't want to be a Puppet Master with Storm On Demand, guys, though. No.
So basically, let me just try to rephrase that. So basically, if you have your own infrastructure with your own data center, if I understand what I read correctly, you basically install Puppet on those machines, and that allows you to control all those machines from a central location. Is that correct or not?
That's absolutely correct. So in Puppet has its own little internal, very simple language. You can describe. This is how my web server is configured. This is my data server. Here's how my application is configured. Make sure these services are installed and running. And you build a nice model of your data center, and then Puppet will push it down to all your managed machines and make sure that they continually follow that model. And if they drift out of compliance, it'll put them back and let you know.
So you saved me the trouble going and configuring all those machines by hand. I just configure it once, and I go, make it so, and the dominoes fall and away it goes, and all my other machines are magically configured.
Absolutely.
And it even deals with the compliance piece too, which is nice.
Yep. No.
I like it. So, what are the biggest challenges that a traditional data center infrastructure?
Right. So, I guess one of the key challenges there are a lot of times people have tried to automate these kind of things with shell scripts, right? They built up this code that maybe one guy knows and he's really smart, but if he gets hit by a bus, everybody's in great big trouble, right? Or maybe that they're doing a lot of things. There's not documentation. So Puppet is a self-documenting system that you can keep in basically in version control, and that you have a description, a text record of all the changes in your infrastructure, and it allows you to scale out from a very, very small number of machines to a very large number of machines while still accommodating the differences in those machines. Like, so if you have a file and you need the IP address in that file, you can substitute variables like that very, very easily, and then manage a very large configuration with a very, very small amount of configuration language and templates.
Okay. You've got some pretty cool customers. So are you okay to go on record to say what some of those are and why they chose Puppet?
Sure, we can. So we have a whole lot of, we'll talk about users too, because we're like a fully open source project. Puppet Lab makes its money off of, support and services and so forth. And Google's using Puppet for its internal infrastructure, Twitter, Dig.
Wow.
I already mentioned the New York Stock Exchange. So Puppet's really getting pervasive at this point. Zynga, if anybody plays Farmville.
Oh, sure.
There's that Farmville again.
Yeah, so we're go play Farmville. We'd like you to do that very much. But essentially any sort of infrastructure, universities, government agencies, right? Several of the larger banks are all using Puppet, and it's basically that it builds such a well-defined model of your data center with relationships, and it's so much easier to understand these shell scripts that it's replacing. It's so much simpler than the really, really expensive, complicated solutions. If anyone's familiar with Opsware or Tivoli or some of these very, very large stacks, Puppet's very, very simple and easy to understand, and very easy to share amongst the team and manage your infrastructure as if it were a software project.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, very cool.
One specific thing here. What's the key, the specific key to an agile data center?
Well, I think there's several keys, but the basic concept beyond this is sort of this concept called infrastructure as code, right? So the fact that everything's a text file means I can keep my configuration in source control, and we have graphical tools. So if you're scared by text or whatever, and you're an IT manager, there's great views into that kind of data.
Okay. But
where you can see exactly when every change happened, and you can manage a clean push between development and stage, QA, and production. So basically, these are concepts that essentially all came over from software, and it's very popular now to apply those concepts to managing your IT infrastructure. A lot of people refer to this as DevOps now, which is kind of the short term for it.
That makes sense. You guys are going to be speaking at the New York Stock Exchange with Red Hat Summit next month. Is that right?
Yes, we're going to be at Red Hat Summit presenting with them. So they're going to talk a little bit about how they're using Puppet to manage a lot of their infrastructure and some of the best practices they're using to integrate with Red Hat's own management applications and their operating system. And I think it's a great example of, Puppet in sort of a mission critical, very, very public kind of computer use case that I guess everybody can relate to.
Okay. And you came from Red Hat, didn't you?
I did, yes. Yeah. So if anyone's familiar with open source projects, Cobbler or Funk, I was involved with both of those and kind of systems management. Very, very much similar, trying to get open source into the hands of systems administrators and get everybody together to share and collaborate on the tools that they all use from day to day.
All right. Well, given that you've got a background with working directly with sysadmins, what are some of the hesitations that you find, or if any, that come up in terms of using open source?
Well, I actually wouldn't say that there's too many hesitations, right? So everybody wants something where there's a community where there's a lot of really good online help and online documentation. And open source apps are the best for that, right? So, and they're also more likely to be attuned to what the actual users need because they're developed and informed by the users, and that community is driving them every single day, and we're so tightly connected, right? So rather than trying to build a product for a CIO, right, who just wants the pretty screenshots,
right? We
can do those pretty screenshots, but we're building a tool that's really simple and useful for the people on the ground. That works well with all their other tools and can integrate with every other piece of their infrastructure in a very malleable way, right?
Right. If people want to get involved with the Puppet community specifically, where should they go?
Well, you can start off by going to puppetlabs.com, and there's going to be links there on the community page to our mailing list, so you can join the mailing list and read the blog and download Puppet and all that good stuff.
Great.
We're also on Twitter as Puppet Labs, and if you're on irc.freenode.net, it's Pound Puppet.
And what is your Twitter handle specifically?
I'm Laser Llama, but I don't know why.
Laser Llama.
Llamas and lasers are both interesting and random, and I got on Twitter too. I think the problem is I got on Twitter too late.
The Michaels were taken.
Yeah, I guess Michael wasn't available.
I love it. Well, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
That's it. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, thank you for being on the show, and hopefully we'll be catching up with you again here pretty soon. Make sure you keep us updated.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Welcome. Well, I believe it is time for a little musical interlude.
I believe you may be correct. Get my wires straightened out here. Your cloud hosting provider letting you down. Take a look at Managed Cloud Solutions from Verticore. A managed private cloud solution can easily replace your current IT infrastructure and eliminate IT pains. Avoid the cost and hassle of buying and maintaining IT equipment and software. Deliver 100% uptime to end users. Configure and deploy resources in just minutes. Verticore, oh Verticore, you should be using Verticore. With Verticore, oh Verticore, you should be using Verticore. With Verticore, your private cloud is hosted in an advanced and secure data center. It uses only best-in-class hardware and software and gives you access to scalable bandwidth. Verticore's team of experts monitor and maintain your private cloud 24/7 by 365. With Verticore, oh Verticore, you should be using Verticore. Verticore, oh Verticore, you should be using Verticore. Verticore, Verticore, Verticore. All right, I'll never try that one again.
His eyes just crossed. Did you see that? Your eyes crossed.
Did they actually cross? No.
At Verticore on Twitter, please give a shout out to our wonderful sponsor.
Please do.
Well, next up, we have Jared here joining us with App of the Week. I am so excited to talk about AwayFind. I've been obsessed with this. Playing our drums over here. So Jared Goralnick, founder and CEO of AwayFind. I have to tell you, Jared, I love the fact.
You love this one. You've been
I
talking
love
about
it.
it all
I can't
day.
help it. It's because I can already use it with my Gmail. So this is an application that's designed to address the email headache, email interruptions. You know, you're constantly looking through your email while you're trying to work, and of course, you know, the whole kitties and, well, I won't talk about that, videos that you know that coworkers send you, get you pulled off in a different direction, and the next thing you know, half an hour's gone by, an hour's gone by, and you've wasted all this time. So this is a great way to have your email closed and still be able to get the important messages. So, Mark, I'm sorry, but I kind of already set it up on my computer.
Did you?
Well, yeah, and I set it so that anything from Mark Jeffrey is not urgent. So, sorry, I'm kidding. Come on. So, Jared, I'll let you talk for a second. Where did the idea for AwayFind come from?
Well, actually, I started a business in '02 that was really focused on productivity training.
Yeah.
And specifically kind of an office with desktop applications. We wanted to save people half an hour more a day. And we realized over the years, like by '05, '06, that half of people's days were being taken by communications. And
half?
we started to look
literally half?
Literally half of their day. Now, some of that's good communication. Some of that's necessary. But a couple hours of every day, a lot of the studies have shown, is actually interruptions and the cost of getting back on track. And that's not what people are paid to do, and it's not what people enjoy doing. So the question is how do you get people back into flow and into being proactive with scheduling their days? So that's kind of what we built this tool for. I really wanted to help people with attention management and being able to focus on what they really wanted to do at work or be able to escape from their email when they're on their trips.
Right. I mean, I think for me, it's the anxiety. I feel like if I shut my email for even half an hour to focus on something, I'm going to miss something really important from Mark. So,
See,
you didn't hear that, right? Okay.
I did hear it.
And I don't want to get in trouble by the boss man, if he's got something important for me to do and I'm supposed to do it within the half hour that I've got my email closed.
It can be a problem.
So that's one thing I found really exciting about this when I played around with it, is that you can have your email program shut and you can still get those important messages that you set up. So I can get an instant message, I can get an SMS, I can even get a tweet that says, hey, Mark's trying to get a hold of you, or you have a deadline with Mark. So
it's like a firewall.
Kind of.
And so you let the good stuff through and the bad stuff or the stuff you want to deal with later out.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
Huh. Now, Jared, you guys were at the Under the Radar Cloud Conference as well, right? Oh, I think we've lost Jared for a minute. Well, that's okay because I can ramble on about this. I love it. Oh, there you are.
Sorry.
Yeah, you're back.
We lost you for a second. It's okay.
Sorry about that. Yes, I was at the Cloud Conference.
So,
Yep.
what's the aha moment that everybody has when they first look at AwayFind? Like, what kind of response do you get from people?
Some people miss the point in terms of thinking like, oh, like my BlackBerry already gives me notifications. The aha is the idea that they realize, well, wait a second, I can turn those, and wait a second, yes, you're right, 99% of the messages I receive just don't demand my time. So what we really found is once we started making that really clear and putting it right in their email application as opposed to making them have to go to our website, that people really got the message very quickly, and that they started to feel real comfortable with closing their application.
You know what this reminds me of? I'm sorry, I just have to bring this up. I don't know who else here is a fan of The Office, but on the season finale, Ryan does this demo of a social networking site called Woof. Now, I'm not saying that this is a social networking site, but what Woof does is whenever you get a message, it updates all of your other social networks. And so he's sitting there and, he tests it out and he sends an update and all of a sudden the fax machine spits something out and he gets his phone rings and then, the secretary says, you have a woof. So it kind of reminds me of that.
It's sort of like the inverse of that, though, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So you're actually getting only what you need and only the important messages. So you had some big news, too. You guys just launched on the Google Apps Marketplace.
Yep, we were one of the, I think, maybe 8 or 10 vendors that got, not only that we launched in the marketplace, but we launched with Google as a contextual gadget, like trusted beta partner or whatever.
Now, not many people do that, right? Not many people are actually doing the contextual thing yet.
Yeah, I think there's, as I said, there's fewer than a dozen, and there's some access I'm not sure that everybody has, but certainly people can start using it, developers can start using it, but we got in the early group. And it's pretty amazing. It means you actually get to be in their email, and I can show you in a moment whenever you'd like, but you literally are in the bottom of every message in email throughout an entire domain, and we don't take up much space or anything, but we give people the option of getting urgent alerts based on messages that are like that one.
All right, I have to interject something here. So remember when Mark Schuster from This Week in Venture Capital was on like 2 weeks ago, I think it was, and he said app is crap. Remember he went on a little tirade. So and my response back to him was, well, no, actually, I was gentle about it, but I was kind of like, yeah, I'm not so sure I agree with you because with Google and the Google App Store, you can integrate things with existing services, right?
Perfect example.
I said unified login. I didn't really think about Gmail and some of the other things. Well, here's a perfect example of where this application is integrated, is already in your Gmail. You don't have to, you just have to flip it on.
I'm telling you, all I have to do is click a button that says ignore Mark, and it's that simple.
Yes, well, you have to use it properly, of course, but you need to, but you get the idea. It's already integrated. You don't have to, there's no mucking around. So I don't know. I kind of disagree with him on this point. Yeah, this is why.
I would completely agree. I think that it's really difficult to become a destination website for startups. Or, I mean, if you're Facebook, if you're Yahoo or something, there's a chance people are going to visit your site. A declining chance in the latter case, but with with most small applications, especially if you're a utility and not a game, in which case your experience doesn't need to be kind of fully immersive. It makes a lot more sense to go to where everybody else is. And I think the iPhone is one of the few iPhone, Android, places like that, like phones, are one of the few places where you actually can take up the whole screen. Whereas in other cases, if it's Salesforce or if it's Outlook or any of the Google apps, then you're going to take up a portion of the screen in some kind of gadget. And that's probably the best way to do it because you're in front of them without really changing their behavior.
True, true. Well, why don't we jump in? I want people to see how awesome this is.
Sure. Give me 1 second here.
Sure.
So now you set it up, and are you using it right now?
I've got it on mine, yes.
Oh, wow. So how long have you been using it? Has it just been a couple days or just today?
Just like the last 24 hours when I was first getting my messages from you. Like I was actually out at lunch and it's like, what the heck is this? And we have a change to the show notes.
Right. So there you go.
So here we go. I think we can jump on over to Jared's screen and see how this works.
So if you can see the screen right here, you're looking at a regular Gmail interface. This is for a demo domain that we have called Avatarty. But otherwise, this for the most part looks pretty similar to what you're used to. What's different though is in the bottom of the screen, we see a row here for AwayFind. This is our contextual gadget. And what you can do is you can say that if I receive a message from Ryan, what I want to happen is I want to get a direct message, for example. Or maybe I want to get an IM. And I only want that to happen, though, for the next day, because right now we're working on a project, and but after that, I won't necessarily need to get alerted right away when Ryan emails me. So I could just choose those options, click create, and that's it. And the next time I go to a message that's from Ryan, I'm not going to see it taking up that much space, but I will see that Ryan becomes highlighted. You'll see that hopefully in a moment.
Yeah. So you're pretty much just setting up rules then.
Yep. Yep, they're really, really light, basic rules that expire. And I'm realizing what I just did here on my end. I logged into another account while I was doing this, so I'll fix that while you go over to there. But yeah, so that's basically the idea. Is it's rules, but rules that can expire.
Sure. Now, here's a quick question. One thing that this is trying to do is, obviously create a filter so that you're only getting the important messages. But on the AwayFind site, someone can just still fill out a form to contact me. Now, everyone thinks their messages are the most important. So what I'm wondering is how much, less important stuff still makes its way through.
Sure. As of now, the product is mostly rules based. Sorry, I just wanted to log out of my account here. So what that means is you're not going to get notified of things you don't want to, because you're choosing specifically who is going to notify you. So in this case, it's specifically messages that are from Ryan that are going to come to me, whereas it's not going to be messages from, say, from everybody. So if you choose the wrong people, yes, you might get notified by the wrong, by the wrong message. But it's not going to be, people don't generally set up that many alerts. It's usually, you're going to meet with somebody for lunch in the next few days, and you want to get notified if they message you. There's a particular project that's particularly urgent. It's things like that. So you're not going to get extra noise. What we're working toward, though, is helping people to choose the very specific people that we think are urgent to them, not necessarily important, but actually timely and urgent. Yeah. And we're also putting in some intelligence so that we can actually predict those kinds of things.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was going to add those. I had actually two questions. One is, I'm sure a lot of people are thinking this as well. I use Gmail. I have filters that I've set up. I use them a lot in folders for a lot of different things. How is this? And I sort of use that to do what this application does. What do you do that's different from Gmail's inherently inbuilt folders and filters?
Sure. What's different from us is two different things specifically. One is that we're sending messages to other communication media. So, for example, we're sending to SMS. We actually have the ability to call people and read them a message. We can send SMSs internationally, which is something that even in the beta features of SMS that Gmail has, they don't offer. We can send to IM. We're going to have an iPhone and Android client, so that's another place that we can send messages that that they can't do. And then the other big thing is we can expire our messages. So those are kind of like the basic things that are different. But then on the other end, we have, of course, that contact form that Amanda had mentioned, which is a neat way of allowing people to alert you with an emergency without having to see your cell phone number. So this is really good to put an out-of-office message. A lot of our users put this in the signature at the bottom of their email. Instead of giving out their cell phone, they say, if there's something urgent, fill out this form. And what's nice about it is it doesn't take up that much space in your mind, because it's only going to take up to 2 SMS messages, which really doesn't interrupt your day that much.
And not only that, Jared, but also in terms of the drop-off rate for people who fill out forms, the conversion rate for forms is fairly low the more fields that you put in. So unless it's really, really urgent, I think the fact that you're doing a form is probably helping people to stop and think, is this really worth it?
Right. Got it. There's a lot of talk to the form.
Yeah. Oh, we have a question from the chat room from our bud, Jay Praz. He wants to know that what's preventing Google from building this themselves?
There's not much that prevents Google from doing anything, to be honest. But I mean, what we're doing that's a little bit different is we're cross-platform. So we support Exchange, we support IMAP. We support Gmail, of course. We're going to be supporting other providers. So you can actually have multiple accounts. So that's obviously one of the big differences.
That's what I was going to ask, yeah.
And then on the other end, we're supporting other services as far as distributing. So what I don't see a lot of these companies doing is creating applications in a lot of different places. I mean, we're going to be in Outlook. natively. So, and we already support Exchange natively. So that's just stuff that I just don't see Google doing. What our product will eventually grow into is kind of, a lot of education in terms of how do you escape from your inbox. Whereas if Google adds something, they'll add a little feature, but they really won't get into a lot of the benefits and a lot of the explanation for how to set things up in such a way that you spend less time in your inbox. That's not really a goal of Gmail, is to keep people away from their advertising.
Yeah, that's true, actually. That's a very fair point. What about the level of granularity? I mean, how many rules can you really put, and what makes the most sense in that regard?
And I apologize that my screen's not coming up right now.
That's all right.
But no, you can set things based on any rules you could think of. It can be the from, it can be the to. So in the actual AwayFind user interface, you can get to a lot more detail. You can set things like how many people have been sent in the to fields, so that if a message has more than 4 people, it's probably not personal. You can set things like keywords, and we also give you a list of the people who we think you're most likely to find as urgent contacts.
Nice.
So sort of you predict.
Yeah. So, and they're building more intelligence into it.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Jared. I encourage everyone to check out AwayFind, awayfind.com.
Yep.
And what's the Twitter handle, Jared?
The Twitter is @AwayFind.
And what about you, if people want to follow you as well?
Well, thank you. I am at @TechnoTheory.
@TechnoTheory. And actually, I wanted to make sure everyone knows, also go to YouTube, because Jared has a great account on YouTube under TechnoTheory as well, with lots of these demos. So if you want to
very cool.
if you want to see the actual demos of the product, then he's got a number of different videos on YouTube.
Very smart.
So we'll make sure we get that link up.
And those are all on the demo pages of AwayFind as well. So, but I really appreciate you having me, Amanda and Mark. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Definitely keep in touch. We definitely want to know what else you guys are up to. Well, I believe it's getting a little bit chilly in here.
It feels like the chill is on.
Clouds are rolling in.
The icicles are forming.
Ooh.
The storm is blowing and the clouds are dark, and a volcano chews the sky. Anyway, Storm on Demand. Storm on Demand is an infrastructure as a service cloud computing platform that is powerful enough to replace dedicated servers. A proprietary cloud platform designed by Liquid Web, one of the largest web hosting providers with over 12 years of experience. It's easier to use and less expensive than Amazon EC2, which don't have little guys. There's no little guys.
No little guys.
Because they're Amazon. They have big guys maybe, but not little guys. Little big guys. Anyway. Features include server setup in minutes, easy scaling, backup and restoration capabilities, and pay-as-you-go utility-style billing. Options include cPanel, Fantastico, Ubuntu, Debian, CentOS, the ability to fly, super hearing, no, not those two, not really. CentOS, fully managed servers, private networking, and much, much more. Storm on Demand can be found at stormondemand.com. Storm on Demand. Thank you. Storm on Demand.
Storm on Demand @Storm on Demand on Twitter.
Yep.
So thanks again to our wonderful guests today, Michael DeHaan of Puppet Labs and Jared Goralnick of AwayFind. And make sure you check them out. Pretty cool stuff.
Please do.
Verticore, another wonderful sponsor of ours,
Fantastic
Verticore,
sponsor.
and NetDNA. So NetDNA CDN on Twitter as well. Give our sponsors shout-outs, because you never know what kind of goodies you might be getting from this weekend.
You never know.
You never know.
Yeah, something's coming up soon. I'm going to do something this week.
Something's coming up soon. So again, though, seriously, they really make the show possible, and they have been with us from the beginning. So thank you very, very much to our sponsors. If you have ideas for the show, send them to pitch@thisweekend.com. If you think you can make it in the hot seat over here with me on This Week in Cloud Computing, send an email to Amanda@thisweekend.com. And next week, we've got Chris Hoff with Cisco.
That's going to be a big show.
So that's going to be a big show. Stay tuned. And, well, until next time, this is New Cloud Time, same cloud channel. And I'm Amanda Coolong with This Week in Cloud Computing.